Welcome to the Padres Hot Tub, everybody. We didn't pay Bobby this week, so. Greg Elsten, Chris Reed, Raphie Cantor with you. It is December 19th. We are recording on Tuesday this week, and we are recording for the final time in 2023, maybe. Probably, barring an AJ Preller Christmas miracle. It'll be the last PHT of the year. We'll take next week off, and we will come back in the first week of January, bigger, stronger, more refreshed, with exciting news and hopefully exciting Padres news as well. So that's the game plan. We'll just put that out right at the top. Thank you all. This is the 2023 Year in Review podcast, kind of. We're aiming that. We'll do some of that. We're going to do some regular stuff at the top. We'll do some year in review as well, but we're doing that because it's the last one. So happy holidays to everybody. Hope everybody is safe with family, everything else. And if this is the last one of the year, also gigantic thank you to everybody who has supported, listened to, whether you're a patron or whether you're somebody on the free audio feed. And everybody who's become a YouTube subscriber and everything in between, thank you for supporting Padres Hot Tub in 2023. Okay, a couple quick housekeeping notes. We are having actually our second annual Padres Hot Tub holiday get-together, end-of-year party, so to speak. That's going to be at the Till 2 Club this Friday, prior to Tim Capello's $5 cover charge concert to hear the iconic theme song of the Padres comeback in the second half. I Still Believe. From the Lost Boys soundtrack in the 1980s. So we are going to be there. Chris and Raphie and I are going to dinner, and then we are coming to the Till 2 Club. We'll be there somewhere around 7:30 or 8 before the 9 o'clock show. So hope to see you there somewhere around 7:30 or 8. We did a check on our Discord to see who's coming, and I don't think I have to call the club and warn them of excess crowding or fire marshal hazards. But, hey, we'd love to have you come. And if you're just a casual listener and you want to come by the Till 2 Club and meet Chris, meet Raphie, meet myself, tip a drink, have a good time, we'll be there on Friday at 7:30. That's El Cajon Boulevard, the Till 2 Club. If you do want to support the show, you've got a moment, we'd love to have you. Patreon.com/Padres Hot Tub. We've gained some new patrons in the course of the last week. We'd love to have you support the show. It's as little as $5. Patreon.com/Padres Hot Tub. We had a number of folks who had joined, dropped off, and then just kind of hung around the Discord. All those folks are out now. So if you happen to find yourself out this week and went, what happened? It's because you weren't paying for the service anymore. Feel free to jump back in. $5 a month is as low as it gets. Patreon.com/Padres Hot Tub. Our patrons picked for us our December movie for the December watch party, which was The Muppets Christmas Carol. And that will be taking place Wednesday, December 20th, tomorrow, 7:30 p.m. Pacific time. We're going to click play on Disney Plus to watch The Muppets Christmas Carol. And then we are going to afterwards have a live post-game show on our Discord, just like we do after Padres games, except this time it's after a Muppets movie. And we're going to record that, and we're going to release that on Christmas. So all of that's the housekeeping. All of that is set. Wednesday, 7:30, Muppets Christmas Carol watch party. Friday, 7:30, PHT get-together at the Till 2 Club. Become a part of our community. Patreon.com/Padres Hot Tub.
If you needed any other evidence of how awesome the people are in our Discord, Muppet Christmas Carol being selected as our December movie is the nail in the coffin because it's a masterpiece. I am thrilled that Craig and Raphie have not been able to enjoy it up to their existence on Earth this far, and that we will get to talk about a masterpiece. I don't use that word lightly. A masterpiece of Christmas movies.
I can't wait. This is exactly how I was talking about Say Anything. So, a masterpiece, and I'm so glad you guys can watch it for the first time. So, it's fun to have the tables turned in a great way. Can't wait for that. All right, let's get into the news. There was at least a little bit of news this week, and then there were some stories that could be an entire podcast into themselves, to be honest, and quite frankly, probably will. We'll probably have to retread this ground to some extent later. I don't know how deep we want to go tonight. We'll find out together. First, the Padres salary dumped Matt Carpenter. As we've talked about so many times, it actually happened. We had to attach a prospect, asterisk prospect, to allow a team to dump the contract. This was the Atlanta Braves. They've just been in the business of this all winter long, really weirdly. But Ray Kerr, left-hander, who wasn't bad in like 20-something innings last year for the Padres, and $1.5 million and Matt Carpenter, who immediately was released. So finally, the clearance, the washing of Carpenter out of the pipes of the Padres system. And the net result of all of that is you don't have Ray Kerr, but you have $4.5 million less CBT hit for Matt Carpenter for the Padres next year. Would any actuarial types like to comment on the accuracy of this move?
I mean, good. I think $4 million is money that clearly, I mean, seemingly that the Padres could use. $4 million was something that we kind of, a year ago this time would have been waving our hands at, saying not our money, like whatever, blah 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 blah. And now $4 million feels very important. Listen, I'm not in the business of liking giving away lefty relievers. Especially for, this time at this team, which pretty much if you're left-handed, you could pitch for the Padres in 2024 at this point. I don't know that Atlanta is necessarily going to turn Ray Kerr into Josh Hader, but it's still not pleasant to give that away. And I mean, I guess now we can kind of close the book on Matt Carpenter and just say, wow, what a mistake that was. And Craig, you talked about AJ being such a mixed bag last week. And that's the one thing we know about him is that he's a mixed bag and he can do things like, the Soto trade or the Darvish trade or the Snell trade even, and really be a fine evaluator of talent in the offseason. But he also chases shiny objects, and he chased, a Matt Carpenter hot pocket in the Short Porch Yankee Stadium, and it cost the Padres $12 million and a roster spot in a very, very important year. So, I don't know. Gone and forgotten, I suppose.
A hot pocket with juiced balls, it should be noted. Yankee Stadium was playing with a different ball than all of the major leagues when Aaron Judge was trying to hit 61 home runs for some reason.
Real shocker there, huh?
Yeah, don't need a Pikachu detective to get to the bottom of that one. It does give me a little faith that maybe the Braves aren't quite as bright as we thought they were because they traded for Matt Carpenter thinking they'd be able to trade him to somebody else, like they had a couple times this year, and so maybe they're not as smart as they're given credit for, but that's really looking for a silver lining in a salary dump move that cost them one of their few left-handers that had major league experience, and kind of closed out another trade that was pretty rough at the time, which I think was Adam Frazier, right? He wasn't the Nola deal; he was the Frazier going to Seattle, right?
That is right. Frazier went to Seattle for Ray Kerr.
Yeah.
I guess the last thing I would say about that, I'll talk about something we said that I think was extremely right this year, but I'll start off by mentioning something we said that was probably the single most wrong thing that we as a group said, which was probably the last week of April Padres Hot Tub where we talked about how maybe the Padres had their best DH ever in Nelson Cruz and Matt Carpenter.
Yeah.
I think they had 32 ribs between them in a strict platoon in like 18 or 20 games. And we heaped praise on how they did. And then they immediately went like a collective 2 for $1 billion.
I just want to say I have no idea what you're talking about, Craig.
I remember this. I remember it, Raphie.
I remember
We were standing on the flight deck. We were in our flight suits.
Yeah.
They put a banner right over the bridge.
Yeah.
So we couldn't even see where the ship was going.
Incredible. So with that as a preface, there was a good period of several weeks that we talked week after week about the fact that the Padres played a man down. That they just played a man down. Because one of the single craziest things that happened this Padres season was having Matt Carpenter stay on the team to not play. Just, you're going to be there. We ain't going to play him. Well, he's going to stay there. Well, we ain't going to play him. Well, he's going to stay there. And that was a month, a straight month that he never took the field. And then crazily, when he started to appear in drips and drabs, an at bat here, a start there, he actually like got on base again and was almost functional as a player. And you went like, well, God only knows what happened in that. But when Preller, Melvin, they hate each other. Like when that really became a thing, Matt Carpenter was the lightning rod of that. And so to me, he's not just a terrible decision. He's a sign of the dysfunction of the year. Like Matt Carpenter is a symbol now of the dysfunction of the 2023 Padres front office versus dugout rift when he sat for a month. And it's silly. It's conjecture to go, if they had done something different, that could have been the 2 wins that was the difference. But we literally were 2 wins out of a playoff spot. So I think it's fair to turn over every rock and inspect every team, every inefficiency when you're that close. This was a gigantic own goal that the Padres did for a month when everything was falling apart.
I also just want to point out that we now only have 32 players on the 40-man roster.
Is that good?
I mean, maybe.
I mean, it gives you flexibility.
Yeah.
Certainly. It's better than having 40 and then having, no flexibility. But I also think, there's 32 guys on the 40-man roster. There's only 3 people who actually throw left-handed at all. They're all pitchers, thankfully. But one of them's Jay Groom, and the other is Adrian Morhone, and then Tom Cosgrove. And that's it. Those are our lefties in the Padres 40-man roster right now.
But wait. Hang on.
How's that for a transition?
It's time to turn this ship around, baby. Let's get to signing season.
To the distant west.
Hey, as you guys well know, once Shohei Ohtani signed, all of the baseball world's attention turned, and the question that's dominated the baseball world has been, who will be the next team to sign a Japanese pitcher? Who will be that? And the Padres did it. You thought they couldn't do it. You thought they didn't have the payroll flexibility. You thought they didn't have the stick-to-itiveness, the gumption, the cojones, the chutzpah. We did it. We signed Yuki. Maybe. It's actually not official. We signed Yuki Matsui.
We got Matsui.
There's a left-hander. We got Matsui, baby. Godzilla's coming. No, Yuki Matsui. Is he Hideki's brother? Left-handed reliever.
I think it's a very common surname. Very common.
Kim Park. Got it. Matsui.
Those are Korean, Craig.
Those are Korean. I'm just, yeah.
You're batting 1,000 right now. So
Mr. Baseball, just like Mr. Baseball, our November viewing party. Okay, so he's a left-handed reliever, Yuki Matsui. He saved 39 games for Rakuten, which I believe is an online website for discounts. Which makes sense now that the Padres signed him. So, no, I mean, legitimately, are we? I'm kidding around, but are we excited about Yuki Matsui, left-handed reliever, reportedly joining the Padres?
I think if there's a move that I would read in the newspaper that I would trust, it would be that AJ Preller has signed a pitcher who is throwing in Japan. Like, and that's
Fair.
that's the beginning of the end of it for me because I don't watch a lot of MPB. I won't pretend to have familiarity with players, but I do trust that the scouts out there do good work and that the data is readily available and they know what they're getting. It will be interesting to see what this number is. Like if he's getting paid more than $7 million a year, I'm going to be kind of surprised and not alarmed, but it'll just be like, okay, well, this is the plan. And it's interesting that he's the first chip to fall in the plan. But
I really encourage people, if you haven't yet, to Effectively Wild had an episode where Eric Longenhagen, their prospect analyst, went on and talked about all the players that are coming over from Japan and Korea and Taiwan in this offseason. And one of the things that Eric focused on was people still to this day underrate at the NPB, the Japanese Professional Baseball League, where it's not major league level, but it is higher than AAA. It is in that kind of quad A sort of position. So Yuki Matsui's career ERA in 10 seasons, this is over 659 innings as a reliever, is 2.40. Okay. In the last 3 seasons, 2021, 2022, and 2023, his ERAs were as followed: 0.63, 1.92, and 1.57. And that's in 43 innings, 51 innings, and 57 innings. So those are good, really good numbers. Those are very, very good numbers. He's
no matter what the exchange rate is, that's impressive.
He's one of the best relievers in the NPB, and he's coming over as a 30-year-old. I don't think that this fixes the Padres or the Padres bullpen specifically. I think it is a good type of move. There are some question marks around it. If you guys haven't seen, Yuki Matsui is only 5'8" and 167 pounds. And one of the questions was around the transition to Major League Baseball. And specifically, there was reporting that he didn't feature as heavily in the World Baseball Classic because he was having trouble with the ball that was being used,
which is not
the same,
tacked.
Which is not
here.
tacked. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So and is a little bit slightly bigger, and it's a slightly bigger ball too. I mean, you and I looking at it would probably, we'd really have to be looking at it in terms of that difference. But if you're a professional baseball player, you've been throwing the same ball your entire life, you'll notice if it's, quarter of an inch bigger in diameter or something like that. And more specifically, like you said, Chris, it's not tacky. That's what the whole sticky stuff situation was here, is that, the ball is too slippery. So, that worries me a little bit, like that, but I don't think enough that I'm now off Yuki Matsui. I think that that it's a very exciting signing. And I also am really excited to see what this guy who's been playing in Japan, which is a great organization, or great league in terms of getting the most out of their pitchers, because guys are generally like a little bit smaller over there and they have to be more efficient with their mechanics and stuff like that. Get Ruben Niebla and the biomechanics lab on him. I'm really excited to see what's going to happen with him.
Do you think that's the physical that just gave him the bigger ball and was like, let's see if you can get your hand around this?
They brought him to the little the radar gun behind the right field seats in Petco, where you and any kid can go up and throw it, and they're just like, all right, get in there, Yuki. Let's see what you got.
Give it a rip. I'm very tempered in being excited. I think this club has had a very solid and I think pretty consistent hit rate coming from the Far East. It's clear that they've got their scouting roots there, and that they've got a good network throughout. Whether it is Korea, whether it's Taiwan, whether it's Japan. So on that level, I'm excited. He apparently turned down. This is according to the UT's write-up. First off, they have him at 28. I thought I heard you say 30.
Sorry,
so,
I made a mistake. He's 28.
So that's good, I guess. they said that he was about to have a 4-year, $10.7 million contract in NPB that obviously he's foregoing to sign in the United States. Also, when it was the time to post Yuki Matsui, he was not posted. He's an actual free agent. So all of those things limit my upside interest in Yuki Matsui. I think top upside is he is a super useful pitcher. Akinori Otsuka was a super useful pitcher that didn't have an incredible amount of decoration. I think someone can tell me I'm wrong. We could look this up, but I kind of feel like Matsui's got a better resume coming out of NPB than Aki Otsuka did. But we could figure that out. But he was an incredibly good, serviceable reliever for the Padres for a couple of years. In the 2000s. Sasaki with the Mariners was quite good as a closer. That's the only Japanese closer. Well, and then Red Sox, Uehara. So there is some track record of a Japanese closer coming to the big leagues and having success. I don't know. Just the fact that he wasn't posted makes me wonder if we're kind of getting a AAA kind of guy.
And it wasn't like a service time type deal where he had already built up enough service time that he was eligible to be a straight free agent and not.
Well, yeah, no, that's what it is. He's played 10 seasons.
Got it. I wanted to do a quick little for reference because I'm not very familiar what MPB players make. I don't know what getting that contract of nearly $3 million a year means in the context of things. And Yoshinobu Yamamoto was one of the highest paid players in the league last year, and he made $5.4 million. So that's that's not nothing to shake a stick at. That's a pretty lucrative contract for over there.
All right. So what number are you going to be very happy with this signing, and what's the number where you're going to be not happy with this signing?
I hope it's like a 315 with one of those opt-out deals, low AAV. And, if he struggles in the first year, they have a couple years to kind of try to fix it with him. And if he comes out in deals, then, he gets to play the free agency game over here.
I'm with you, Chris. I think you would reference 7 million annually as kind of the no-go number. Like anything above that starts to feel a little. Yeah, I mean, I'm thinking back to whatever Nick Martinez's first contract was before he extended, and it was like 4 years at 7 million a pop or something like that, and it had opt-outs. I'm hoping it's less than that, but I have a feeling that that's going to be somewhere in the ballpark of maybe like a 4 and then 5.5 or 6. But it seems like he wants to get, like you said, he wants to get that long-term security. Craig, as you had mentioned, he had a 4-year contract in the NPB. Maybe if he was going to make 10 million in the NPB, then 12 million gets it done. Who's to say? But I'm assuming if he's going to come over and move his family and make this huge transition, he's going to probably want a significant payday. So I think it's probably at least 15 million in total value. And I'm hoping it doesn't exceed 20. That's kind of my sweet spot.
Yeah. Okay. We're pretty similar. I if I remember right, and again, I could be wrong. I could have been wrong 3 times in the last 10 minutes. I think we signed Pierce Johnson out of Japan for 214. 2 years at 7 million per.
Yeah, we can spot track that.
That's about where I'd put my. If that's what we signed Pierce Johnson for, I think we could sign Yuki Matsui for that.
It was actually only a 2-year and $5 million contract. So 2.5 average annual value.
Well, I'd really be happy if they signed that.
Yeah. I think
the market's gone crazy this year. Yeah, the price of eggs has gone way up. And if they signed him to 212, 214 with a third year that's a triggering thing or a club thing or a mutual thing, I'd feel pretty good about that.
Well, it kind of gets into some we're going to talk about a little bit later is we still don't know what the hell the Padres are trying to do. We don't know if they're trying to hit a payroll number or if they're trying to get under a tax number.
That is correct. So I don't really want to dwell on this part. We're just going to get to that. So the Padres signed. Well, they haven't signed. The Padres were reported to have signed or to be close to signing one left-handed reliever out of Japan, Yuki Matsui, for an unknown figure. They've dumped Matt Carpenter. They've made a strategic retreat with Soto and Grisham for a bunch of pitchers. Meanwhile, this week, the Dodgers traded for Tyler Glasnow and Manny Margot, giving up Ryan Pepio, who's who knows? He's a Dodgers starting prospect, giving up an outfielder named DeLuca, who arguably could have been the right-handed platoon partner to Jason Hayward instead of Manny Margot for $8 million less. That's kind of the parameters of that. It's all about Glasnow. He gets 4 years and $110 million guaranteed on top of the 1 year $25 million that he's got this year. And I said it on Twitter, and Dodger fans, did what they were going to do, and I get it. But if you had told me, hey guys, emergency podcast, the Padres have broken out of their glass case, they have traded, give me Sebi Zavala and Adam Mazur, right? Or Sebi Zavala and Snelling, or not Snelling, but
it would have been like Pepio is more of like a Snelling analog.
Okay, Snelling and Zavala for Glasnow and Margot, and we have then signed Tyler Glasnow for 4 more years at $110 million after this year. I don't know if I would have crapped my pants. I don't know if I would have cried. I don't know if I would have adjusted my blood pressure medication. I would have been scared as fuck, because Tyler Glasnow is more like Tyler Glassjaw. If you remember Mike Tyson's Punch-Out, Mr. Glass, like he's the one. He could give you 6 innings or 120. He's never thrown 150 innings in baseball ever, and now he is going to a Dodgers team that will pull him after 5 anyway. But I don't know. What do you think? I felt like this was maybe a mistake by LA.
I think the needs are different. I think LA needs guys in October. So like it doesn't really matter if Glasnow gives them 150 innings. They've got some depth in the pitching market that the Padres wouldn't have. But I don't know the number, but I am curious to see of the Dodgers projected 2025 rotation if they have more Tommy Johns than they have playoff wins the past 2 years.
I would compare this to how it probably felt the rest of the league looking at us this time last year when we signed Xander Bogaerts, and we were like, "Oh, they're probably like, that's a lot of money and a long time to give to a guy who might not be worth it, is declining." But I think there's 2 key differences. One, it's half as much money. 2, Glasnow has a lot more injury risk, I'd say. Of course, he could just explode at this point. He's had 2 Tommy John surgeries. But the third thing, and I think this is the biggest thing, is that we were in win now mode then. The Dodgers are in win now mode now. They're pushing their chips in just like we were pushing our chips in. But they don't have to engage in any sort of tactical retreat. They're not going to, and that's the difference, is that, this time next year, like, I don't think there's a situation where the Dodgers are, trading away a Juan Soto or something like that, because they're having to, they've committed to Glasnow. And so they're, we got to trade away, what's Stone, or, I don't know, any of the
Right.
other like strong prospects they have. That's not in their future. And that's the key difference between this, where it's like, in a vacuum, do I think that that's a good deal for the Dodgers? No, for all the reasons that you said, Craig. Like, I think it's a lot of talent, a lot of team control to give up for a guy who's not proven, and it's a lot of money to tie up in a guy. But it kind of like last week when we were just talking, about how it just doesn't really matter what the money is for Shohei, like, because it's the Dodgers and it's Shohei, like. It's kind of all of a piece. I mean, they might sign Yamamoto, and so it's like, in a vacuum, like this sort of deal should theoretically block that, because you've just given a starting pitcher over $25 million a year. but it's not going to. So it doesn't move the needle for me on the Dodgers. Do I think it's in a vacuum a good piece of business? No, but their needs are different and they're not limited like we are. So it's just different stuff.
The $8 billion television deal gives the Dodgers opportunities that no one other than the Yankees has in the sport. Until the local versus network television situation is stabilized, this will occur. These things will happen. And the local versus national television situation will not stabilize because those owners are powerful and they don't want it to change. It would take a seismic shift that you'd need a real commissioner to guide. Back in the day when Peter Uberoth, that was independent to either league. That's no longer the case. So yeah, it's depressing. But I'm just gonna say, I mean, look, like I listened to the Gwintelligence guys do their single darkest, most depressing negative podcast ever.
It didn't even have a commercial to bring you out of it.
It did not. It did not. There were some funny bits at the end. But just talking about the annual commitments that the Padres have for, each year going forward against the CBT, and how between 160 and 130 something million dollars of the CBT is just gobbled up year after year after year, for the Padres, and how that it just puts you in a really negative situation going forward. Okay, the Dodgers are doing this too, way bigger. And every time you add another gigantic contract on size, gigantic contract on length, and especially if you're chipping it to somebody 30 plus, I know Yamamoto's 25. It's another thing that could be an albatross down the road. Oh, Ohtani, he's still $46 million against the CBT. The CBT isn't $500 million for LA and it's $200 million for or $230 million for everyone else. It's $230 million for everyone. So while yes, they hit reset 4 years from now, 5 years from now, there'll be 4-time, 5-time offenders trying to fill half of their roster. And eventually the check will come due on this. If you build a bloated roster, it will collapse you eventually. I'm praying it won't collapse the Padres for a decade to come. I'm praying it won't ruin our franchise. And I think it's fair to explore whether or not decisions made in haste to contend at the start of this decade are going to cripple us for the decade to come. But if we are still smaller than LA, if they do what we do on a bigger scale, it will still hurt them. It will. Player loss, if not money loss.
I just look at that TV deal, man, and it's not just the sheer giant number and term of the deal. It's that as terms of their bankruptcy, as I've read reported, they pay less into revenue sharing as a percentage than any other baseball team, than any other team in MLB. They've, as a result of their bankruptcy, they've got a competitive edge that when it walks hand in hand with that gigantic deal, that $40-50 million that gets lit into the fire and thrown into the competitive balance tax and into revenue sharing, it just doesn't matter to them. Like, who cares? Like, it's a cost of doing business when you're operating at that scale. And having them resort to that and give, this year they tried to do we're trying to stay under the CBT, and then they signed Miggy Rojas and everybody else, so they were over it again. They've abandoned that model. They're not going to give a crap about the CBT going forward.
You just said something I didn't realize. They actually mistakenly are now a 4 or 5 time offender?
Yeah, at least. But I don't think it goes up past the third year. I think it maxes out at third year, and
50%.
Then, well, no, your penalties go up. If you're at the Steve Cohen tax is $40 million over the cap and third year offender, and that's 110%, I want to say. Or 105.
So they're going to be slamming that. They're going to be slamming that easy.
Sure, but that's only over the amount that they go over it. So if the cap is at 270 and their payroll is at 290, that's only an extra $20 million, $25 million into the CBT. Like it just, they play by different rules. So we don't get to play the same game of them. And like you said, until baseball fixes the damn problem, it's
Right.
going to be what it is.
Currently, the Dodgers' estimated luxury tax payroll for 2024 is $255.7 million, which puts them they're over the first threshold, but they're still under the second threshold as of now by a million and change.
Yeah, but they're gonna plow past it. They're still signing people.
Yeah.
No
Yes.
question, they're still signing people this year. So
Yes.
okay, well, fuck the Dodgers. I don't care.
Thank you.
Go win 100. Go win 120 games. I don't care. As long as they're not all against us. The Diamondbacks retained Lourdes Gurriel on a pretty reasonable deal. We can't afford a right-handed hitter, otherwise I would have been happy about that. The Giants signed Jung-Hoo Lee. We talked about him as a Padre last week. The deal he got, 6/113. I would have puked if the Padres signed him to a deal that extravagant. I would have literally vomited my guts out. If we got Lee, 6/113. It would have been like one of those reflex barfs.
Team
and then
America.
I would have been like, what happened?
Yeah.
Exactly. What happened? So, good for Jung-Hoo Lee. Grandson of the Wind is one of the most awesome nicknames I've ever heard. I wish you were a Padre. You were left-handed. You were fast. You were contact. You were defense. You were a lot of things I wanted. Now you're a Giant. So sorry about it. That's a ridiculous overpay for the Giants.
Well, and also the 6/113 also masks his posting fee, which is $19 million. So it's really like 6/132 for the Giants. So I mean, if Lee isn't just like a solid everyday starter, like I mean, with some truly standout years, they're getting no value in this contract. So
yeah.
Oh, and
That's
if
an
it takes
all-star
2 years
contract.
to get, if he does do a Ha-Sung Kim, and each year he gets a little bit better, he has an opt-out after 4 years.
Yeah.
So
Because Ha-Sung Kim warned him to do that.
Exactly. So right when he gets good, he would be able to get back to the market. So totally not mad at the Padres not making that deal, just like totally not mad at the Padres not making the Tyler Glasnow deal. And yet the teams we're trying to face are adding, and we are making acutarial moves to reduce Matt Carpenter's CBT hit against our payroll, and maybe signing a lefty reliever out of Japan. In the context of all of this, Dennis Lin, at the end of last week, published an article in The Athletic that was the worst one since Peter Seidler died, because it was the article saying the opposite of what we had heard from the club from September forward, which was that this club was committed to paying at a $200 million plus level, that they were committed to competing, at that number. And once the sources are saying this, I guarantee it's true. They are looking to compete under the number. They're looking to reset their CBT situation. They're looking to become a zero-time offender by the end of 2024, and that puts handcuffs on Preller that he's never had before, or at least since like 2016 or 2017. It drastically reduces my hopes for 2024. That article alone. I read it. I'm just telling you, because we're all friends here. My first reaction when I finished reading the article was to contact my Padres ticket rep and find out if there was a way just to get out. Just what are my options? Can I get out now? Can I get out right now before I have to deal with this for the rest of the year? Because you raised my ticket prices solidly. I'm up to a compact car payment now every month for Padres season tickets. And if my resale value drops to nothing because we've got a lousy team, what am I doing? It's a bad business deal. And that'll be repeated, by the way, in the thousands.
Yeah.
Across the season ticket member clientele. So I don't know. Somebody talked me off a ledge. I read that story. I understand it. I understand being prudent. I don't want us to just spend money on a crap starter to, on an Eric Hosmer to get over to a set number to say, okay, we're competing at a number. But there is, and this was a point that HJ made amidst all the rampant negativity. There is a ridiculous canard in the discussion of the Padres, which is, well, if we're at this number and we've got these players, like, we're not punting. Every year that Manny Machado and Xander Bogaerts and Joe Musgrove and Yu Darvish and Jake Cronenworth get older, their contracts are worse, not better, but they stay as the exact same penalty against your chance to build a roster those years going forward. So it that doesn't mean anything. The Angels have done this for decades. Sign players to bad contracts, fail to fill the rest of the team, struggle, repeat. I don't want us to become the Angels.
I can't argue that. I too do not want us to become the Angels. I mean,
team not Angels.
I think a lot of it just comes down to behind the scenes money stuff that we're ultimately not going to have the answer to. Just in terms of, I really think something fucky's up with the trust, and that there's handcuffs that are being put on the spending, from a fiduciary standpoint, and because like what you just laid out, Craig, it's so obvious. Like, they raised ticket prices considerably on people, and for them to turn around in a couple months and completely slash the team and not spend money is like comically dumb and evil shit. Like, yeah, I mean, it just is, unless there's some other circumstance happening. You know what I mean? Like, unless there's something which is not being reported, which is outside of our control that we don't know. And that is the most intriguing theory to me, because otherwise, like, it just doesn't make sense. They're the only team in town for another 18 months. Like, why wouldn't they take advantage of that, knowing that they're of the 4 or 5, whatever you want to cap as the big 4 leagues? Like, it just has to be something behind the scenes for me.
That's a distinct possibility, because I mean, my grandmother worked in probate for a long time, and when people die, when estates happen, when trusts get enacted, things get funky really fast. So distinct possibility, sure. However, like, this goes to something that I didn't put in, but I feel like needs to be brought into the conversation a little bit. I think we need to know what happened to Peter Seidler, how long he was sick for, what he was going through the past couple years when these contracts were getting signed, when these extensions were happening. We need to know what he died from. I know the family deserves its privacy, but at the same time, the club's entire direction was changed. The entire business model was changed to the Seidler model of get the best players, field these teams, fill the stadium with roaring crowds. That's how you get people excited. That increases your revenue. So they talked about this. They talked about it being the new model was putting an entertaining product in the best ballpark in America, and that's how they were going to operate going forward. I think there are competitive advantages to going under the CBT. And as I said on the Let's Trade for Some Pitchers episodes like a month ago, it's the only lens from which I can get behind trading Soto. Because trading Soto is a punt on this season. Because you've given away way more than you're going to get back. Even if the team has needs, if it has holes, you're going to give away way more than you're going to get in return for 2024. But if you're trying to get under the CBT, you get a bunch of people who are on pre-arb contracts that can go down to the minors. You can sign guys to bare minimum contracts, and if they suck, you can ditch them and pull up the guys that have options. And you get back into the revenue payee category as opposed to the revenue payor category. So instead of paying alongside the Dodgers and the Yankees and the Mets, you get a little bit of their money at the end of the year. Padres carry a market score of like 68, and over 100 is what you need to be a big market club. So as soon as they get under these CBT numbers, they're going to be right back into the payee, model. And it's kind of surprising to hear you go that way, Raphie, because we do talk about, building for the long term and having young, controllable players be key to winning. I mean, even championship teams that have stars on them have young, controllable players. So I think shifting, I don't think it's a bait and switch entirely. And this is coming from the guy the night of the Soto trade was like, this is messed up.
Yes.
But like my perspective is this is the only thing that makes sense as opposed to just slowly dying. I think that we didn't read between the lines enough when the Padres were saying we're going to be cutting $50 million off the payroll and the number is going to be around $200 million. Because to me, the whole time, like those numbers look suspiciously close to the CBT and that. So like, I don't think it's a punt in and of itself if they get under the CBT this year. And we won't, but if they are egregiously under it, if they trade Robert Suarez, who is a late innings leverage arm, who they've got to a big but pretty reasonable contract in the context of what pitchers are getting these days. If they dump him, and Cronenworth and prospects to remove those from the contracts, then yes, I think the most likely scenario is there's a trust issue, and we might be looking at a major league situation.
Okay, well, let's just lay the numbers out for people really quickly, because we have to get to a whole other year in review, and we're 45 minutes in. But
I knew it when I wrote this menu. I'm like, I've got a full show here, and then we're going to do something else.
So the headline from Dennis Lin was, Padres may seek first to stay under CBT, may not get to $200 million. Now, our current estimated luxury tax payroll, according to Fangraphs, is $205.2 million, and the threshold's at $237. So even if they spent all 32 of that in luxury tax dollars, that doesn't get us close to $200 million. It gets us to $184 million in terms of actual payroll. So, both of those things could be true, and just to, Chris, I think you're making a great point here. Of let's say they get to right up against the threshold, and that means spending another $30 million in free agency, and that still only brings us to $182 million. Like that makes that headline true while also not feeling so egregiously bad. You know what I mean? I think that the fact that this headline's being written at a time when the Padres have done nothing in free agency makes it feel worse. Like if they had signed some guys, whatever, then, it's the same thing. And I didn't get to say this earlier, but like we had a pretty hot show last week talking about the Ohtani deal and how we were all really pissed off at what it was. And then when the numbers kind of came out that it effectively was a $460 million deal.
Yeah.
I think if that's what had been reported first, the three of us would not have been so upset. Like,
correct.
It was the fact that they said it's $700 million. Well, actually, it's only 460. We were like, well, this is bullshit. And it's the sequencing of it. And I think the same thing's happening here.
If you just look at it as like he's still the number one CBT number in the league, AAV Shohei is like, it becomes less of a like, well, this is unfair, and it's a gaming of the system, right?
Yeah.
We also have to look at what AJ said. I don't think AJ is a liar at all. I think AJ uses his statement. Okay. I think AJ doesn't lie as much as it is made out to be. I won't say he has lied. He has been a liar. He has deceived the fan base. But he said that he's going to be looking later in the market. He's going to be looking for value next year. He's going to be looking at the same time that he signed Michael Wacha last year. It's not going to be a December coming out of the winter meetings, bidding on the high guys, going after Bellinger, or even the mid-tier guys, the Montgomerys. It's going to be a dumpster diving. I don't want to say that because these are good players and he's found value all over the place later. But I'm not going to be stunned if Jurickson and Profar is on the opening day roster and maybe even playing left field, This is how he's going to look to build the team, and it's going to happen later. It's not going to happen And, he could make the big trade on December 28th, like he has shown himself to do, but it's not going to be for a 25 million AAV person.
Well, if he does it, we'll do an emergency podcast next week. I'm going to make an executive decision and skip the next bullet point on the menu because I think that's all of next week's or 2 weeks from now's show. And unless something happens, but yeah, just going to skip that. That's a whole show. So it's time to take a look back at 2023. Now, I want to state right off the top, the week after the season ended, we did a season in review. So if you want to go back and listen to that, we did a lot of categories. We did Padres MVP, Padres LVP. We did, the week after we did 6 games that sank the season. We did a deep dive on the specific, turning points of the year. So I invite you to check out those podcasts for much more seasonally specific and in-depth coverage. This is more of an end of the year review. So very quickly, under the tab, the most consequential year. That's what in a very Confucius, may we live in interesting times curse said at the beginning of the year.
Correct word use there.
Indeed, it was the most consequential year, 2023, for the San Diego Padres. Here's what happened. What appears to have been a final go-for-it year for the franchise, for Peter Seidler, as he exits our mortal coil, that somehow that was never communicated to the players, and they treated it as their luxury yacht season of largesse and slow pace and minimal effort until the very end. Just an absolute tragedy of a year that combined the most commitment, the most future downside risk in an attempt to win immediately. And then the players are like, well, cool, we've got 10-year contracts. That means we got 10 years to win. Let's see what happens. Too bad. As that was the case, in the middle of the year, Bally Sports San Diego went belly up. And right start of July, the Padres went from having a $60 million a year feather in their nest to, let's see if we can sell 1,000 over-the-top subscriptions on MLB TV for $20 a pop. Then the team missed the playoffs by 2 games, missing out on hundreds of millions of dollars of revenue, of playoff revenue, of ticket revenue, etc. Then Peter Seidler died, the beloved owner of the franchise, the paragon, the just absolute leader of everything. A corporate raider from his private equity firm is now in charge and is the control leader of the group. The news has been that the team is working into compliance on debt reduction. They traded Juan Soto. Bob Melvin bolted to San Francisco. And the dude that's been hanging about in the rafters for 2 years, Mike Schilt, like, hey, I'm over here. Mike Schilt's now our manager, and I actually am not mad at that at all. And in the midst of all of this, every other team in the division, save the Rockies, who will never do anything ever, thank God for the Rockies. Every other team is like, we are in 100% full go-for-it mode now. Diamondbacks make it to the World Series. They're adding payroll. The Dodgers are going to, turn into the first $7,000 billion team. And the Giants are going to overpay for Jung-Hoo Lee. But they're probably going to do plenty else, too. They're suspected to be ready to spend. So, did I leave anything out? The consequence is we went from up here to down here in 1 year.
I mean, isn't you Darvish got hurt elbow? There's a lot of them there, Craig. But no, you got the broad strokes. If this is on a chart of a decade of events, those are the big ones for San Diego this year.
I think I don't really think you missed anything per se. I do think that it's worth repeating that process doesn't equal results. I think this was of 100 outcomes. If you'd run the season, this was the worst one. Like I genuinely think that this was. I mean, the team didn't even get into their confidence window of win totals. You know what I mean? Like it was an incredibly low win total for an incredibly good team that also really wasn't that hampered by injuries. Like it was pretty healthy, all things considered. Soto played like every game. Kim played every game. Machado had a
couple
brief
hits batters is really all that it comes to mind, right? Xander and
Tatis
Manny
was
getting
healthy
pegged.
the entire time that he was on the team after the suspension. Machado had a brief IL stint. We had really good pitching health, all things considered, until the wheels had already fallen off. So, I mean, you run that season back 100 times. Like, I think our preseason playoff odds were 85%. Like, I think that sounds about right. And like, I think that the shitty thing is just that there are consequences for doing everything right, or doing a lot of things right, or doing most things right, and still coming up short. And that's kind of the situation that we are in now. I'm looking forward to talking about the positive aspects of the season, but yeah, I mean, we should be bummed out. This was hard. This was not, certainly when I signed up to join Padres Hot Tub, this is not how I thought things were going to go. But we did it, and we did it together, and that's what makes it great. And
that's why I said this is going to be the best year in Padres history, because we got to talk about it, right?
Right, absolutely. And well, okay. So having laid that out, having recognized that we indeed suffered the most consequential year in Padres history, instead of enjoying it, we thought we were going to enjoy a trip to the World Series, enjoy consequence of an entirely different sort. And, or at the very least, a disappointing playoff after a 95 to 100 win team. That was the complete 100% honest truth. That was what I thought was going to happen this year to the Padres. Mm-hmm. I couldn't say that at the start of the year, but I thought that we were going to be that team that did really well and then got into a 2 out of 3, and ball hits a base, or Blake Snell walks 6 guys, or what, Suarez gives up a homer, whatever. And you lose 2 games and you're done. And everyone goes, God, what a disaster. And then we spend the rest of time going, what a good team that was. And if only whatever, Soto had caught the ball, or if only it hadn't have gone off of Garrett Cooper's glove, or just, whatever the thing was that made us lose the playoff game. We would have been not noshing on that for years. But it happened to the Mets. It happened to the Braves. It happened to the Dodgers. It happened to the, the Astros, that go around the league, right? Great teams losing the playoffs every single year. That's the design of it. So we're going to have, if the team had a run of 10 straight trips to the playoffs, we were going to have a year like that, where we get dumped in the first round and it sucks. And I kind of thought that would be our fate, and it would be the bummer. We didn't even come close. We didn't make it. We were under 500 all year.
I mean, we were one Juan Soto warning track fly out before a hurricane away from displacing the Diamondbacks into the playoffs. And I guarantee you that the Diamondbacks think very fondly of this season, which materially wasn't all that much different than the Padres season on paper. They just had an October Hot Pocket, and they're going to forever have a banner flying over their little fuck pool in right field, because they're going to look up at that forever. And they're going to, in 2043, they're going to have the Diamondbacks 20th anniversary National League champion anniversary thing, just like the fucking Padres did. It's 2018 and we've got Manuel Margot. Let's bring back the 98 guys again,
They have actual World Series titles, guys. They can do those. They're not going to do the
You can only call Tony Womack so many times.
Exactly.
At some point, you're going to give a ring to Merrill Kelly. You're going to be like, come on back, old friend. Hey,
Yeah.
I see you, Paul Sewald. Come on back. Paul Sewald, I guarantee you, is going to be at every Diamondbacks post-career function the rest of his life because he was the closer on a team that made the World Series.
Tommy Pham.
Tommy Pham will not be coming.
Tommy Pham will come.
He'll maybe he will. That's a great question, actually. Would Tommy Pham be the kind of guy that you never see again, or the kind of guy that you see all the time after his career? So
playing poker tournaments in Phoenix.
I don't know. I feel like he's never going to show up again.
I'm with you, Raphie.
Yeah.
Okay, so we start with the simple. This is our end of year version of Positivity Corner. So
you're gonna yell at us. I need to prepare. I'm gonna turn down my volume.
You tell me something good. Tell me what was the best Padres thing of all of this? Not of all of that, of anything you can think of. What was the best Padres thing in 2023?
That the season ended.
That was really it was a relief, man. I'll just say the Mexico City series, the game where Austin Nola hit a home run after I bet on it. That was the high point for the season, and it was a great opportunity for the Padres, the San Diego Padres, to reach a different audience, get down there and play in a ridiculous field, and showcase the game in a way that we hadn't had the opportunity to do for a while. We still thought like our DHs were good. Nelly Cruz hit a home run. Like there was that was a fun moment that I'll take away. And beating the Giants helped. It's not necessarily a rival. I guess we don't have rivals anymore, but it felt good in the moment. That's 2023 in the best positive light that I can put it.
I'll just say the anticipation.
That was fun.
It was like, I mean that genuinely. Like January, February, March of this year was unbelievable. Like everyone that I knew who was a Padres fan was tapped in. We were the talk of the league. And we had the Mount Crushmore thing going. Like we had the best closer in baseball, before we completely soured on him and he betrayed us in late September. It was really magical. Like it really was like this. Like I know we've won the offseason many times before this, but this was the first time where I was like, oh, we're a real fucking team. Like,
yeah, people were saying that they're going to win the World Series. Like that felt great.
Yeah. Yeah. And
I
I'm
think
chasing that
empirically,
high.
that's the correct answer, Raphie. I think that's actually the actual right answer. It's just that great feeling we had all the way through Kershaw of like, this team's going to really be special. And then starting the day after Kershaw, it was like 3 months of, are we making too much of this? When are they going to turn it around? Let's make excuses. Let's tell all the reasons why it's going to turn around. Blah, 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 blah. And then we got to July and August, and it was kind of, is this it? I just feel like it's like getting progressively betrayed in a relationship. Like where are we? That's how it devolved. So I think you're right. My answer here was a bit of a cheat, and it's a bit of sniffing our own farts. But the best thing for me was the Padres hot tub community. It was having a place for honesty, having a place to relate to one another, having a year to work with you two guys and to see how it developed, to start in January not knowing what anything was going to be like. Now here it is December 19th to be where we are today. We didn't shed 30% of our audience or anything. We kept going. I think Pods Above Replacement was an incredible addition to what we did. And that doesn't have to do with the Padres. That has to do with us. So I admit it's a cheat. It's a fart sniffing sentiment. But what
Sniff away.
Yeah. How about them eggs?
Yeah.
Yum. Just
popcorn.
What got me through the year was this group, because I didn't lose my crap because I know we're responsible to this group, and So I really, 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 really appreciate it. I'm very happy to have this place. I'm happy to continue to have this place. All right, let's do some quick categories. This is one you were asking us, Chris. I don't know if you're making the video, but what was your favorite game? Just game. You mentioned Mexico City, so I think you have to offer a different thing. But give me a favorite game of 2023. I definitely have one.
This is a little hard because I've tried to block so much of it out. The one that pops into mind is the Ha-Seong Kim walk off after the David Dahl game tying home run. You know, that they were in that game and it was against a young Diamondbacks team, and we were kind of like, is this the new baseball? This young, scrappy Diamondbacks team, and Corbin Carroll was batting like 6th or 7th on them, and they showed fight all the way till the end, and then walked it off in front of the Petco crowd. And those are really the moments that I hold on to during a season, when they launch one into a sea of San Diegans, and there's the rapturous ending to it. So I'll put that as my favorite game. It's all been so long time. It's just been a waterfall of baseball and mediocrity.
Literally the second home game of the season. Just, all downhill from there.
It's rough when that's your climax,
April 5th.
We're not sponsored by Hims or Roman, but maybe the Padres season should have been.
Raphie, your favorite game?
There are a few that I could pick from. I'm going to give an honorable mention to the game that I went to on my bachelor party, which was in Arizona on April 22nd. It was the first weekend back for Tatis. It was the first game that he homered back. We won that game. I don't remember the individual score, but it's not my favorite game. My favorite game was the game prior to the Kershaw meme. Up until, it was the Friday night home game against the Dodgers. Padres won 5-2. The win took them one game back of the NL West, just behind the Dodgers. Tatis homered twice, in that game. Josh Hader came in for a lockdown save. Blake Snell, I believe, pitched it was Yu Darvish through 6 2/3 innings. Only gave up one earned run. Nick Martinez came in for a 4-out hold and passed it on to Josh Hader. And, it was like, up until the Kershaw meme, I was like, okay, we can play with these guys. I was sitting in Ye Olde Rustic Inn in Los Feliz in LA with my sister and her girlfriend, and we were watching the game, and we were the only Padres fans in a little section, and we were quietly getting really, really, really stoked. And I really felt like I'm going to be able to walk into any bar in Los Angeles and wear my Padres hat this year and get some fucking respect. And this is exactly the type of, we had just bounced them from the NLDS the year before. Here we go. Like, let's fucking go. And I really felt good driving home from the bar that night only. And then the next game was the extra innings game that they lost against the Dodgers on the 6th. And then the 7th was the Mookie home run game, or is that the same game? Because
we lost in extra innings at the
extras.
Mookie game. Yeah, I was at that game.
That's the one game I got to go to.
That was on Sunday Night Baseball, though, wasn't it?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah. So that was the 7th. So we had like double whammy losses to the Dodgers, one extra innings, and then the other was on national television from a last gasp home run for Mookie Betts. And that's the rest is history. So it was the peak. It was the peak. That was my favorite.
I have a very specific, and it's definitely strong number one for favorite game of the year. It was later in the year. It was the heart of summer, 4th of July. And I was on vacation. the vacation house at Bass Lake. We drove break of dawn early in the morning up into Yosemite. Spent a brilliant day in the Yosemite Valley. Drove back home, went through Bass Lake with all of the 4th of July fixins and such, went to the grocery store getting barbecue stuff, came back to the Airbnb, grilled up steaks and hot dogs and hamburgers, and flicked on the late afternoon game. Bally Sports had just collapsed. It was either the first or second MLB TV experience of the Padres and the Anaheim Angels, LA Angels of Anaheim. So even on the Roku of the Airbnb, I could just pop it on because it was a free view thing. Boom, came in crystal clear, HD, Dawn and Mud from Bass Lake as the Padres brutalized Shohei Ohtani. Struck him out at the plate. Joe Musgrove, 11 Ks over 7 innings, completely blanking Ohtani, and the Padres went to town on Shohei. Manny Machado had 3 hits. Xander Bogaerts and Jake Cronenworth had home runs. Cronenworth had 3 hits and drove in 3. Xander Bogaerts had 2 hits and drove in 3. The Padres got hits with runners in scoring position. They had big innings. It was a sellout crowd. The barbecue was sizzling after a beautiful day in a national park. And the Padres had hammered Shohei Ohtani like hopefully they will do for the next decade, or at least for a couple years before he retires from pitching in 2026. Just an absolutely perfect day. For me, that was just a perfect day. The Padres won to get to 40 and 46. That was terrible. But this was the time where like, okay, they're coming home. They just got back from that terrible series where they got swept in Cincinnati and gave up like homers in the 9th and the 11th. They hit the reset button. They beat the Angels. They pounded Ohtani. Sellout crowd, 4th of July. Grill is buzzing. That's my favorite game.
I was picturing the steak the whole time you talked. Sorry. What game was it?
4th of July.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
8-5 Padres. 8-5.
Angels in the porterhouse.
Yeah. Jose Castillo came in to give up 4 earned runs. And Josh Hader turned an 8-1 game into a game that he got one of his courtesy saves.
Yeah.
So that part wasn't good. I kind of forgot about that part. But the first part was really, really good. Like it was all fun. It was homers and hits and big hits and all the stuff we had just spent like 6 episodes in a row like we never get a big hit, etc. And so just a beautiful day. There it is. Favorite game. How about biggest pleasant surprise? What was we just talked about all the unpleasant surprises of the year. What's the biggest pleasant surprise of the year?
This one for me has long-term implications. The biggest pleasant surprise is a guy I've criticized who I didn't think would put in the work necessary to make this adjustment, but Fernando Tatis Jr. in his first season as a right fielder, winning a platinum glove as the best all-around defender in the game. That transition to the outfield was a tremendous surprise because we hadn't seen great play out of him out there. And it was a big mystery how he was going to respond to his shoulder surgery, missing baseball for a year and a half. And I certainly hope the offensive numbers come back. But having, especially now that he is the only outfielder left out there, it was a great, pleasant surprise that he is phenomenal out there and should patrol the green spaces of Petco for a decade.
I'm sort of on a similar line in terms of someone who changed position this year, albeit not as drastically as Tatis. But I think it was a pretty big deal that Ha-Sung Kim not only stayed the same but got better this year, playing effectively a new position, playing second base. He never played second base in Korea. He played shortstop for us in 2022. Coming in to plug the hole of a missing Tatis and did an exceptional job. Played Gold Glove defense, should have won a Gold Glove. Was not even nominated, I think, or I can't remember if he didn't win it, which was bullshit.
Wasn't nominated.
He wasn't nominated. Yeah, it was bullshit. And then he comes and wins a Gold Glove this year, playing not only great second base, but also occasionally third base when Machado was hurt, and improving at the plate, and putting up a 112 WRC plus. And I should say that he really slumped the last month of the year. So he put up 4.4 F4 and a 112 WRC plus, but that number was really like above 120 for most of the year. He was truly exceptional at the plate for a solid 4.5 months. And, just to kind of put in perspective for people, like, Ha-Seong Kim is on a 4-year, $28 million contract. I don't think that includes his posting fee, but he paid for his entire contract last year in value.
Yeah.
His whole deal. He could be completely replacement level next year, and it technically wouldn't have mattered. Like, if you want to look at it from a pure dollars and cents standpoint, he was that good. He was truly that good last year. And there was no guarantee that he would have been. So
I was wrong. He was a finalist. Dansby Swanson won.
he was a finalist, but yeah, Dansby Swanson.
Kim won the utility Gold Glove.
No, I'm talking about 2022.
We're talking about. Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
I was confused. My biggest pleasant surprise, I just revised it as I was thinking, because I was going to say Seth Lugo, because I really didn't have an expectation that he would finish the year as a starter. I thought he was going to do what Nick Martinez did a year prior and start for a brief period of time and then get shuttled to the bullpen and become the Padres' 7th inning reliever. He got stronger as the year went on and was really good. But as I was thinking that in my mind, I went, well, objectively, if that was a pleasant surprise, how much more of a pleasant surprise was it for Blake Snell to win the Cy Young Award?
Yeah.
And be the best pitcher in the National League. And especially that pitcher, because, he's the guy whose jersey I got when when 2021 started and I got my season tickets. I'm like, I'm going to get a Padres jersey. And I got Snell because I was intrigued by him. And then for 2 years, he was a fairly confounding player on the Padres. So what he did, I believe, truly does constitute like the platonic definition of a pleasant surprise. You know that he could pitch to a 3.5 ERA going 4 1/3 innings for 100 pitches, but to pitch to a 2.2 ERA going 6 innings on 100 pitches is way better and was a ton of fun. My second favorite Padre game of the year was Blake Snell's last start when he had the no-hit bid, that he carried through his part of the game. So what a pleasant surprise. Blake Snell, Cy Young, who knew? Now, it's going to cost him, but cost us. Well, it won't cost us anything. It'll cost some
No,
team.
he's going to do fine, Craig.
Yeah, he's going to be fine. He's going to be fine. All right, we'll wrap up with a stocking stuffer. Hey, holiday theme. This is a small gift. This is a pleasant surprise writ small, something that's cheap and affordable enough that you would, toss into the stocking as opposed to wrapping up as a gift. So, Chris, what's your stocking stuffer of the year?
It has to be a rookie who, I had no idea existed at the beginning of the year, and came up along with he made his debut right after another reliever whose name starts with C. I think it was Drew Carlton. But Tom Cosgrove came in for the Padres, in his first year of Major League Ball through a sub-2 ERA. He had a 1.75 ERA in 51 innings of Major League pitching. And obviously, cost control guy, pre-arb, not going anywhere in a unit that's going to need a lot of help. And there were much bigger names ahead of him. I mean, even if you besides Suarez and Hader, I mean, you had Steven Wilson ahead of him. We were all lustily ready for the return of Drew Pomeranz. And then Tom Cosgrove came in and made himself a cornerstone of the arm barn as the Padres going forward, and he is a menace against Shohei Ohtani. We get to see him do that this year, and yeah, that's my little stocking stuffer. He's a boyish looking brown hair guy.
My stocking stuffer, I don't know if he qualifies as a small gift per se, because I think there's lofty expectations on him. But I think we have a lot to look forward to in Luis Campusano. I think that, his performance when he returned from injury this year was, you know, taking place in effectively garbage time for the Padres in the season, but he was really, really good. And, again, like when that Sanchez Campusano tandem was happening, like we had a bona fide catching tandem that I think was top 10 in the league easily. And I mean, just looking at Campusano's numbers in 174 plate appearances last year, he put up a 134 WRC plus. That's really good. Manny Machado's career WRC plus is like 127, I think. Like, so, I don't know that he can sustain that over a full season, but if he gets anywhere close to a 120 WRC plus in a full season behind the plate for the Padres, like that's a massive contributor and buys us production from that position, as we, that we might not get somewhere else because of the way the roster is stacking up right now.
Correct.
So I think Luis Campusano's health is a sneaky big key to 2024. Because we're going to be looking for value in all the places that we can possibly get it. And him staying on the field is a big, big part of that.
Well, that's a great call. And yeah, couldn't agree more in terms of Campusano's health. And also in that when, again, people want to be completely hopeless about the Padres in 2024 and just go, well, look at the WAR of this position in 2023 and look at the WAR of this position in 2024. And you're just getting warts everywhere. And even the people you're bringing in are only replacements for the people you're letting go. The place where the Padres can drop the most in WAR is obviously in left field, right? The place where the Padres can gain the most in WAR is catcher and first base. Those were absolute dreg positions. And if the catcher position moves into a 3-4 WAR position, that's a giant plus for the Padres. They were basically negative all year last year until Campusano showed up. First base was trash all year last year. So just, I don't know how it's going to happen yet. We got to put it through the mystery machine to get there. But if you could improve that position, those are places you can legitimately improve. And that'll get me to my stocking stuffer, because maybe the first baseman who played best this year, I don't know, at least in a small sample, is a guy who I don't know if he'll be in the big leagues in a year. I don't know if he'll be in baseball in 4 years. It often goes this way for players of this strata. But Matt Batten is going to be a San Diego Padre on opening day, 2024. He will be a Padre on opening day because he came up and he did absolutely everything he's supposed to do as a plucky quad A, get to the big leagues, right-handed bat, utility player. He played a good first base. He hit lefties. He ran a little bit. He moved around the infield. He could play a little third. He could play, he could play wherever you needed him to play. He got more and more comfortable as the year went on, to the point that in September he was actually kind of contributing a little bit offensively to the team. And this is, to me, an exact stocking stuffer. He's going to make the major league minimum next year, and he's going to start the year on the team. Honestly, if you told me that they cut him in June, would you be shocked? Like shocked? If Matt Batten went 2 for 44 and he was gone, but for a pocket, he did a thing. He's got a line on his baseball card now that looks pretty decent for a year in Major League Baseball. And that's pretty damn cool. Way to go, Matt Batten. What an incredible year in your career. And that's a stocking stuffer for the Padres. There's, how are we going to fill out the 25th? Well, there's your 25th, 26th guy. Like, he's right there and he's pretty solid.
And the Padres see something in him, because this wasn't his first year. They've had him around the mix for a while, just trying to get him in where they can. And to have him stand up and come through in one of those few opportunities that you get, it was fun to watch.
Absolutely. Would anyone else
I did think you were going to go with
category?
Garrett Cooper, just so we could all have C. Everybody. I'm
Can't be.
I'm Cosgrove, Campusino, and then It was set up for
Cooper.
you.
Catton. Matt Catton.
Boo.
Would anyone else like to add a category? I couldn't think of any more. I couldn't.
Best concert was Slightly Stupid.
For sure. For sure.
Best concert of the season.
You put road trip on here. Did you guys go and see the Padres?
You did. I put that in case you wanted to tell a story of one of your road trips.
Yeah, you had two. You did all the
Arizona.
traveling for us. You tell it.
The only thing I want to say is I'm really glad I got to see the Padres play in the Oakland Coliseum in the middle of September to 7,000 people maybe. And I got to meet a couple patrons there, which was fantastic. And we got to witness something that, I mean, where do we even know where the A's are going to play next year? Like, are they going to play in Oakland?
Yeah.
Like, they are going to play in Oakland?
Yeah, they're in Oakland another year.
I mean, first of all, that's awful and terrible. And, that's going to be a year-long nightmare. And I feel terrible for everyone all the players who have to play through that, it's all awful. Yeah, I mean, again, it's like it was a nothing game for a nothing crowd, and it kind of reminded me of like what I remember when I was a kid and like the games would be blacked out, like the day games wouldn't be on Channel 4, like, and like you couldn't if you weren't at the queue, like the game didn't exist, or you weren't listening on the radio, you know what I mean? Like you just had to read the newspaper or like whatever. And it almost was the closest I feel like I could get back to that of like, we're just fucking killing time on a Saturday. It's a pastime. And I liked being a part of that for a second. And it was kind of what we deserved at the end of the game that we deserved, just having a nothing series against the A's in September.
That is true. And I was just looking it up. Yeah, they play definitely one more year in Oakland at the Coliseum. Then their lease is out, and then they could either renegotiate there or they could spend 3 years nomading around. But they don't. What a mess.
Yeah.
At least we're not them. That made me feel better. Shout out to Bottle Rocket. My favorite thing about going to Padres games was going early, parking for free over by Bottle Rocket, enjoying all of the great foods and drink that Eli and friends have at Bottle Rocket. Eating there, that was my favorite ballpark food, was eating at Bottle Rocket before the game and not spending on what frankly was, I thought, reduced food options, or at least reduced quality food options at Petco in 2023. The Cardiff Crack was not the same as it was before. I will die by that. So shout out to Bottle Rocket. Can't wait to spend more pre-games and post-games at Bottle Rocket as well.
Here.
Anything else?
It's been a pleasure. That's been it. Like, I don't know how I would have gotten through this season without you guys. Like, and all the folks on the Discord, thanks for the engagement. Thank you for the support. And thank you for listening.
Yeah. I don't think I would have made it through the season without you two, or without our community, or without being able to just come in here and vent every week. Hey, one thing we didn't say, we posted up. We were putting out shows.
Post.
Yeah, you say what you want. We were putting out shows when things were fucking bleak. And I was, aside from I got to go on my honeymoon this year, and you guys held it down while I was gone, and like, other than that, like, we've been through, all three of us, week by week, and it's been a blast. So I'm appreciative that we got to do it, and I'm really appreciative of all the folks for sticking with us when this team was not fun to watch. And like, we really, really appreciate it, because obviously it takes some love and care and work to put this thing together. And so you guys sticking by us and being patrons and just listening in, even if you're listening to us on the regular feed, like, we really do appreciate it.
Absolutely, couldn't agree more. And after 51 weeks of posting up, I'm hoping we take week 52 off. But in a way, I'm hoping we don't, because that'll mean that we got a Christmas surprise from AJ Preller, and we have something nice to talk about. So unless and until, a very happy holidays to everyone on our crew, but also to everyone that is in our viewing and listening audience. May it be safe. May it be spent with family and friends in the manner that you choose, or however you want to celebrate the holidays. I hope you do it the way you want to. And then we'll be back with you, please, with a better 2024, because it's obviously auguring to be much better in 2024. Maybe they will surprise us once again, but this time in the correct direction. For Raphie, for Chris, I'm Craig. Happy holidays. Go Padres.